David here with Figboot on pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a review of a pen which I purchased myself and I received fairly recently. This was not something which was provided for review. It is a pen that when it was released, it immediately caught my eye, but I kind of drug my feet a bit in picking one up. By the time I decided to get one, everyone was sold out, and then there was a period of time when they were rather difficult to find. But now they're more widely available, and I felt it was an appropriate time to take a closer look at it, and that pen is the Diplomat Elox. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Elox. I'm going to talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about it. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. The pen arrives in this standard Diplomat box. Inside, we have the real box. I really like this metal lid that slides off. And then underneath this flap, we have the pen. Also in the box is some warranty information and a couple of ink cartridges. And here is the pen. This is the Diplomat Elox. Now, even though the Elox looks very similar to the Diplomat Aero, it has the same dimensions and utilizes many of the same parts. It is indeed a different model. The Elox name is derived from the German word for anodize, which is eloxieren. This is appropriate, considered the pen features a unique and innovative double anodization process. The pen is made from aluminum, and the distinguishing feature of the Elox is the rings. On the Aero, the barrel and cap have rounded grooves, but these rings here provide an interesting look. The rings are anodized in a vibrant orange, and the remainder of the cap and barrel are anodized black. You know what? I'm fond of pens which provide a unique and tactile feeling in the hand, and this pen does just that. You could definitely feel the grooves against your hand, and I don't find them to be sharp, or they don't grate against the inside of your hand as well while you're using the pen. Okay, let's take a look at the end of the cap. It is topped with the Diplomat ink drop flower logo, which is their take on a Maltese cross. It's silvery gray on a matte black background. The Maltese cross has a long history of association with things like truth and sincerity and mercy in both sacred and secular use. They come in many forms, but here's one example. You'll also find them used by a large number of police and fire departments in their logos. This transitions into the matte black clip. I like the style of this clip. It has a very low profile and is rather long, longer than you typically see on a pen, but I feel it fits the overall look and feel of this Zeppelin-shaped pen. The cap angles up until you get to the end where there isn't a traditional cap band, but the space between the last ring of the cap and the end serves as a visual band. In that space, it is engraved with the company name, Diplomat, and then on the other side, it says Germany, which is where Diplomat pens are manufactured. Over the years, there's been a couple of improvements to the Aero, which have made their way to the Elox. This was a few years back, but the branding at the end of the cap used to be printed on and was at risk for chipping, and the capping mechanism was improved as well, both of which were well-advised upgrades. At the end of the cap, there is a smooth transition to the barrel, which tapers down to the end, where there is a gunmetal tail cone. Speaking of the capping mechanism, the cap snaps off. The Elox, as well as the Aero, have one of the most satisfying capping mechanisms out there. If I did a top 10 list of the most satisfying capping mechanisms, this would be very highly ranked. Now, that's a very specific top 10 list. Let's see, there'd be the Pilot Pura, and then maybe I need to think a bit of what else to include. Maybe it would need to be a top 5 list. Maybe leave a comment in the notes below letting me know what pen has your favorite, most satisfying capping mechanism. But once you remove the cap, you are presented with a number 6 stainless steel nib. While Diplomat nibs are manufactured by Jowo, to me they don't feel like a typical Jowo number 6 nib. Diplomat's nibs to me have always had a very satisfying and distinctive feedback, which I very much enjoy. So I'm not sure what they do in order to tune their nibs, but I like it very much. This nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, and broad. And here's a look at the low-profile plastic feed. The section begins with a groove, which is utilized in the capping mechanism, but also serves as a comfortable stop at the end of the section. It angles up until you reach the end, where there is a step up to the remainder of the barrel. Though this section is metal, with the anodization, I don't find it to be slippery at all. I also really like this pop of orange here on the section. Now, in comparing the Elox to the Aero, I found this interesting. The cap and barrel are slightly heavier on the Elox. That's to be expected with the grooves of the Aero removing some of the weight. But the section of the Aero is either made from steel or a thicker aluminum than the one that's here on the Elox, because the section here on the Elox is noticeably lighter. In the end, the Elox is about 8 grams lighter than the Aero, and so pretty much all of that weight loss was here in the section. I do find it very comfortable in the hand, and as I mentioned earlier, I don't feel the grooves are overly sharp and they don't irritate me when they rub against the inside of your hand. The cap kind of posts. It sits on there and it sits rather deeply, but with the taper on the barrel, I don't find it to be overly secure. Personally, I prefer to use this pen unposted. The Diplomat Elox is available at a wide number of retailers and sells for $212. That's a bit of a premium compared to the Aero, which typically is around $180. I had no issue with the $212 price. As I said at the top, I purchased this pen at full price and have not regretted it at all. I feel that the Elox has a familiar design, but brings something new to the table. Aesthetically, I find it to be very attractive. I really love the orange colored rings. And like I said, I also love the pop of color you get with the orange section. I don't know how long Diplomat plans to continue manufacturing this model, but if it's something that interests you, I would recommend picking one up sooner rather than later while there are still a fair amount of inventory out there to be had. Diplomat has really done a great job over the last couple of years introducing some very interesting new models like this Elox, as well as some very, very cool color variants on the Aero. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Diplomat Elox. First of all, in regard to a few different arrows, I know they're all the same size, but you can see the difference in color. This is the turquoise, and then this is the matte black. And then here is the orange, which is a fairly similar orange color to the anodization that's on the Elox. Since this pen was manufactured in Germany, I thought I'd compare it to some other pens from Germany, mainly some from Lamy. Here it is with a Lamy All-Star, and then here it is with a Lamy Studio, and then finally here it is with a Lamy 2000 in the stainless steel. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Aero. You can see that it's virtually identical in regard to size. And then here it is with the All-Star. And here it is with the Lamy 2000. Okay, here we go with the writing sample for the Diplomat Elox. And this is a medium stainless steel nib. And the ink that I'm using here today is one of my favorite orange inks, which is Leonardo Arancho Tarocco. Which I believe translates to blood orange or something very similar to that. This is what the color looks like. It's a nice, vibrant, saturated orange. In regard to a couple of other saturated orange that I care for, this is the Mont Blanc Lucky Orange, and then this is the Ackerman Orange Bovin. Okay, and here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I mentioned it in the review, but Diplomat nibs are some of my favorite steel nibs out there on the market. I know that they are manufactured by Yovo, but whatever they do to them, they do a very good job at it because it has a distinct feedback to it where if I was writing with this pen and had this nib on a different section where I couldn't tell what it was, I could recognize it right away. It has some rather distinctive feedback. In regard to reverse writing, it's a little sharp, but it does lay down a nice extra fine line. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed has no issue in keeping up. So there we have the Diplomat Elox. I'm really glad I picked this pen up. It's one of my favorite recent purchases. I just think it has a very unique look. I just love the rings on here. I like that orange. And then, like I said before a couple of times, I like the pop of color here on the section. So I think this is a really good addition to the Diplomat lineup. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.